Silver got smashed, didn't it? So what next? Let's have a look in today's video. So to start off with, let's have a look at just 3 reasons why silver had that capacity to have this big drop. First of all, I'm going to bring up actually a volume chart of silver just from this week. And this was the volume from I think it was from Tuesday's trading. And on Tuesday, I think it was here, Monday, it might have even been Monday actually, Monday's trading. Monday alone represented the same amount of volume of the entire first quarter of last year. Just let that sink in. That's a huge amount of volume in a single day that it took 3 months to actually achieve last year. So we were starting to get so speculative anyway as we were coming into this week. And talking of speculation, let's move on to the next point. When retail investors or traders, whatever you want to call them, start saying silver's going to 1,000, silver's going to 500 in the next few months. I was getting all these comments on my channel. Then you know that we're near some kind of high, because when the masses are getting really excited about something, it always happens. It was the same in Bitcoin a few years ago. It was the same in gold in 2011. I was getting abused in 2011 by people saying, no, Charlie, you're wrong. Gold's going to carry on up to 20,000. And okay. When the froth gets really frothy, when there's just this heightened excitement towards an asset class, then normally we're getting close to some form of high. Another thing as well, think about the producers. They'll start hedging and selling at these sorts of prices because they want to hedge future production, and they're going to look at this saying, they're not crazy. They don't think it's necessarily going to $1,000. So these are the people who really are in the know. And so they'll start selling as well. So there was a lot of that going on, which would have helped. And then, of course, these things just spiral and kick in, and then you have a day like we had yesterday. I'm recording this Saturday morning. So we've got market sentiment, that massive euphoria amongst retail investors. Just look at your bulletin boards and stuff. When they're all going hyper about something, you know you're getting closer to a high. It's very difficult to actually time the actual high of when it's actually going to come in. And again, some people say, oh, no, you can do it. Yeah, of course, anyone can put a trade on. I'm talking about generally, when a market is in a mania phase, it's difficult to know exactly when it's going to happen, but you get the sense it's coming. Anyway, so we've dropped, intraday, about 35% intraday yesterday. It settled at a mere 26% down. That was the largest one-day fall that we've ever seen in the silver market. So what next? This is the thing. I'm still a medium to long term bull towards silver. At the moment, I check out my video from a good few weeks ago when I talked about the fundamental arguments for silver in solar panel production. But also there is a counter to that as well, that gradually what will happen is producers will start using other metals. If silver prices had remained this elevated, and they're still elevated overall, then gradually producers will look elsewhere, because it adds a massive layer of cost with silver at such high prices. Now, that doesn't mean to say that silver overall, there's not a supply-demand long-term issue, because there is. So overall, I can see silver still doing quite well. And the prospect to get in that $150 to $200 range at some point in the future is certainly there. Do I think it's going to go straight back up? No, I do not. The market has got too frothy. I think, looking at the chart here, if I bring my pen up, the silver has wiped out the last 2 weeks worth of trading. So as dramatic as the fall is, anyone who bought back at the beginning of January or late last year, they're going to be nursing their wound, licking their wounds a little bit, because they were thinking, oh, why didn't I bank some, or whatever they'll be thinking. But nevertheless, there'll still be a lot of investors who are still in profit. it's not that they all need to be wiped out, those profits, but nevertheless, they still will be. And I don't think that silver necessarily has to come a lot lower, but do I think this is enough of a washout? Possibly not. Now, we could well be in for a bounce, absolutely, and because technically silver has come into this 80 zone, and we can already see it started bouncing back there late yesterday evening. But do I think that it could still probe down again yet, a bit lower? Yes, I do, because I think that's generally what has to happen. We have to wash out, the market will want to wash out the masses. So there's two ways it will do it. It will either come lower and maybe come down back into a lower zone of price, which will then worry people, and then people will then come out, or it'll bore them out. So if I move the chart across a little bit, and what often happens as well is that a market it'll go down to a lower volatility at some point, not just yet, but and it will just start chopping around, and that is the market doing its job. That the masses will get bored, they'll throw in the towel, and some other market will be going up, and they'll run off towards that. So my point is, do I think we're going to go up to 120 again anytime soon? My assumption is no. We've had too much of a mania going on as far as sentiment is concerned. Record amounts of volume. It's got all the hallmarks of a medium-term high. So it's not that it has to come down to $30 again or $40 or anything like that. But I suspect that we're either going to have a little bit more to the downside at some point in the weeks ahead, and certainly start to try and find a base which will just put people off. My assumption is that silver and gold, for that matter, are going to stay pressured and probably going to end up in some sort of smaller range lower down here, which will last for a longer period of time. And we need that in the silver market to put off the masses, because you don't want the masses all piling in, because when they pile in, that's what happens to price. It goes a bit crazy. So we need those put off, and then what gradually will happen is in several months' time, it will start sneaking its way back up. And it's just the way the markets work. The markets tend to go up when the masses are not in. The pros and the big players are in, but the masses have gone running off to the latest hot thing. So do I think that silver is going to go straight back up? No, I do not. Could it? Yeah, of course. Anything could happen in a market. But that's the assumption I'm making. Do I think it's a good buy down here? Yeah, I talked about it in a video a few weeks ago. Just do a recurring buy. Just do a recurring buy some every week. If you think that silver's got long-term prospects, just do that. Just keep buying every week. But you've got to not track the silver price all of the time and worry about the ups and downs and everything else. You're doing it as a longer term investment if you are doing that. If you're a trader, then yeah, of course, you're going to look at some of the technical levels. But do I think that silver is going to go to new highs fairly soon? No. My assumption is that this is a medium term peak that's going to take several months before we go back up. Only time will tell, but that's the way I'm looking at it. Certainly as a trader, certainly traders, there's going to be trading to be done in it, and that's different. But for people who are looking for silver to go up much higher, I think you may well be disappointed in the near term. Longer term, yeah, I'm a bull. But near term, I think this needs to happen. Have a lovely weekend. By all means, answers on a postcard, give us your views, as always. But I always find them fascinating, most of them. And I'll be back next week. No video in the week. I'm off skiing for a week.